Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to be cutting out the panels out of the R2D2 Dome. So remember, the dome is two layers, an outer skin and an inner skin, or dome. Let's say the dome instead of not the body skins. Okay, so on each of the pieces, you can see that on the outer shell, they have the little, let's call them connectors. So they connect the outer pieces. So now what I've done is there's 13 different panels that can move on hinges if you want to go that many. You have the top pie piece, then you have the four pie panel pieces, and then over here is number 6. Now, the thing that you have to understand is I'm going to pick up this, I'm going to take the outer dome shell off, and then I'll show you the inner. So what I did is I've numbered in green tape all the different panels, and I make sure if I cut this out that I know right where 3 go. So I have 3 and 3. If you see blue, that means that that piece has to be painted the blue on the dome. Okay, so if I lift off the outer shell, hold on, we have to put down the camera. So if I lift off the outer shell, on the inner shell, you have basically where that pie panel is gonna, or that outside panel is gonna be attached or lay over. So now what I did also is when I was working on, when I had the outer shell on the inner shell, I went and took a pencil and I tracked the closest line to the pie panel itself. And what you'll see is you'll see the pencil line that goes around. Now, so if you look at it, if I were to cut right here along this piece on both sides, and this comes out, your outer pie piece is going to lay against this edge of the metal from the pencil line on, and that'll be where it stops. So when the hinge closes, you'll have something to stop against. So you have that on most of these, except when you go down to pie panel or panel piece 6, 7, 8, and 13, which is here. So the basically you're going to have to determine whether or not you want to manually cut out 6, 7, 8, and 13. All the others are pretty simple. You just make a line, you cut with a Dremel, you cut this out, or you can use a hacksaw, whatever, as long as you make it nice. You can clean it up with a file, and that's what I'm going to be doing today, removing all these pieces. When you do 6, this is the actual size of the pie panel. So in order to cut this to the right side, just like up here, it comes in probably 3/8 of an inch all the way around. What I'll have to do is I'll have to track in 3/8 of an inch all the way around here, and then cut that inside piece out so the panel has something to rest against. Same thing on here and on here. Now, the issue is that when you do that, is the size of your hinge and how you're going to attach it. Because it has to have something to rest against, your hinge has to fit, and then it has to go where it completely closes nice and solid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out everything. I'm going to think about 6, 7, 8, and 13, and then we'll go from here. So the first thing I'm going to try, I'm going to try the Dremel, and I'm going to see whether or not how well the Dremel cuts through this. And if that doesn't work, then what I'll do is I'll end up using a hacksaw, which I don't have an issue is. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to add these two lines and I'm going to cut all these pieces out. Now over here, this one does not have a hinge. So I just wrote on there, do not cut out. I have a piece of tape there. I do not want to cut that out. Okay. Do I need to do double numbers so I know what they are? Probably not. I think I'm going to do it anyway just so I have an idea is when I put the dome back on, I know where everything is going to go. Now the way that I'm lining everything up to make sure it lines up well is I'm using the holes from the radar dome, and it just makes it easier to line everything up. And then again, you can adjust the outer dome a little bit to make sure that it fits correctly. Once I do that, then I can start figuring out how to drill in all the attachments for the radar eyes, the hollow projectors, and everything else to hold those in place. So I'm going to go off camera while I prepare my Dremel and maybe my hacksaw, and then I'll pick it up in a minute. Okay, so I went and I removed all the panels. Remember how I said there was 13 panels that I have 13 hinges for? Well, this one, number 6, which is relatively large, I decided I'm not going to do that one for a couple reasons. I think it's going to be difficult to connect all the hinges. I've already ran into one situation right here on number 8. So on number 8, when you have the radar eye dome here, and you have to have the hinge and this piece comes out, there's no way to mount the hinge. I'm going to have to look at it. I may have to redesign the hinge, but for right now, I don't think number 8 is going to be able to get open. Number 7 won't have any issue whatsoever because you can mount the hinge above it with no issue. For the pie ones, the hinge is going down, so it opens this way, which won't be an issue. Over here, for the top dome piece, I could probably mount the hinge over here because there'll be something up here, the hollow projector. these 3 panels, there won't be an issue. Number 13, there won't be an issue. I just figured that number 6 and number 8 would be a pain in the ass, especially 6 being as big as it is, trying to get it to close fully. I can always come back and cut this out if I eventually want to do it. So what I've also done is on every single opening that I have, what I noticed is when these were cut, these were very rough. They had burrs on the inside. So what I did is I filed these down using multiple size files, and then I wet sanded until they're like looking really smooth. And you really can't see any of the marks. Now you won't see this, but what I didn't want doing is I didn't want my wires hitting any of the burrs. I didn't want to deal with any edges connecting the hinges. I wanted stuff as smooth as possible. And so basically it took me 1 full day to basically drill holes and then use a hacksaw to cut out all the pie pieces. I tried using a Dremel. It was extremely difficult. The pieces didn't come out all that straight. I did down here, and then I used the files. But I tried to use the Dremel to start the hole, make a slit, and then I would stick the tip of the hacksaw into the hole and then just file away both directions and then do the opposite, because they're saying later on when you have the hinges set up, you may need that piece you cut out to be support for the back of the panel in order to flip up so it gets the right levelness with the outside of the dome. So here we have, this is the inside because it has the ring on it. And then here is the outside. And in order to match this up, I basically look for the holes. Okay, this is hard with only one hand. So okay, so right now we've got everything set up. We have the outer dome on the inner dome. I think it's pretty close right where it has, and then where it has to be. Now, because I did a bunch of sanding and washing, all the pencil lines went away on the inside. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to do all my pencil lines so I can really see where everything is at. And then I'm going to basically on the outer dome, I'm going to be cutting out all the panels on the outer dome. Now these ones have to be done extremely carefully, because if you don't stay within the line where you're trying to cut off this little connector piece, okay, this pie panel will not look sharp and crisp. It's going to have a cut through it. So I want to make sure that I go very slowly. Now, when I did, as I said earlier, it took me a whole day just to cut all these pieces, probably about 6 hours. It took me another whole day to file and wet sand these to get these smooth to where I wanted. I did every single hole on here. I mean, every single hole, even these small ones that will eventually be covered up, these are all sanded nice and smooth. So that was the main thing that I really wanted to make sure I got done. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back with a pencil. I'm going to do all my markings. and then I'm going to start cutting out the pieces on the outer dome, so those panels can all be painted.